All right, pack it up, pack it in, and let us begin. Coming to you live today on this beautiful Monday, March 10th, 2025. Big day in sports, big weekend this past week in sports as well. Plenty to get through. First off, let's do the introductions here. I'm going to go as fast as we can because there's so much to break down today. Sebastian Friar, we're all back home. I'm back in Massachusetts for spring break. Traver's back in Colorado, and Sebastian's are in Tampa Bay. So he's getting some
Absolutely.
nice weather. Yeah, so he's getting some
Whoa.
nice weather. So I wish I could be him right now. But gentlemen, how you doing on this marvelous Monday?
I'm having a great day. The weather's improving in Colorado. About to go for a hike tonight, reconnect with my nature roots, but I'm definitely having a good time relaxing, getting a break from school.
The beautiful Rocky Mountains out there in Colorado. Ain't that right, Traver? But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
here in Tampa Bay, Florida, enjoying the beautiful beachy weather. Went out to lunch right by the beach. It's beautiful, man. It's just good times. A marvelous Monday, like you say, AJ, spring break. Can it get any better? Especially with the NFL free agency frenzy we've got going on today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good golf and frenzy today for me with the Patriots spending money left and right. So a
Yeah.
lot to get to. So show rundown today. We do have a rebuild to do. We'll do the Atlanta Falcons after we do all the NFL stuff. We're going to get into the NHL trade deadline. That was over the weekend. Big names. My team again just tearing it down, completely starting over from the studs. Really feels like, and the MLB. Garrett Cole done for the season now. So we'll definitely react to that. Let's start out with the NFL. I'll open this up to you guys. If there's a free agent signing you want to talk about right out of the gate, go ahead and talk about it. Give us your thoughts.
Sebastian, you can go first. I'm just looking through all the signings here.
Sounds good. I'll start with the quarterback position. Obviously, the two main guys that we're talking about entering today, Justin Fields, we expected him to go to the Jets. I think he went to the Jets. That's a very fair deal. He got over there. It's around 20 million a year, I believe, throughout the 2 years. I think it's low risk, high reward for the Jets. Normally, starting quarterbacks are being paid 40 million plus a year. He gets that contract, and especially if that goes wrong, or that starts going down south quickly, it's a contract you can get out of really quickly. So I don't think there's much risk there for the Jets. And if he works out, you got your franchise quarterback there for the next couple of years. And then obviously shifting towards the Seahawks, they traded Geno Smith for a third round draft pick over to the Raiders. Now you go out, get Sam Darnold, I think on a very manageable contract. I mean, we were talking about Sam Darnold getting potentially 45 to $50 million a
Yeah.
year. All of a sudden that goes out the window based on his last two performances of the season against the Lions and against the Rams. But I think he got a very fair deal for both the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. That's probably what he deserved in my eyes. And I think he's an upgrade over Geno Smith. I think the floor is a lot lower than it is with Geno Smith, but the ceiling's a lot higher than what it is with Geno Smith. I think it's a guy that's going to throw over the middle a lot better. He's going to anticipate a lot better at times as well. And hopefully he can take care of the turnovers. Hopefully he's not rattled because I think the number one thing the Seahawks have to do right now is address that offensive line. Because Sam Darnold, when he doesn't play, behind a good offensive line, he tends to struggle. He tends to really get rattled by that pressure. But if they can protect and rebuild that offensive line, JSN, I think they're going to get him some more weapons over there, get that running game going with Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. And I honestly like the way the Seahawks are headed. I think the Seahawks were done, sitting in mediocrity, especially with Geno Smith, DK Metcalf. They got all those players who wanted too much money out of there, brought in Sam Darnold in a reasonable deal, and now let's build it from there. I really, 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 really like what the Seahawks are doing there.
I mean, I'm not as high on the signing as you might be, Sebastian. I gotta say, when their interior offensive line is as bad as it is, I mean, I just looked up the depth chart, but before that, I could not name one guy on the interior of their offensive line. Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas are fine. Charles Cross is a good left tackle, good blindside protector for Darnold, but other than that, man, it's gonna be coming from up the middle, and that just scares me because we saw what happened to Darnold down the stretch when he got a lot of pressure sent on him. That just worries me. Feels like it could be a bit of a disaster there, but they had to go sign a quarterback. I guess it's a weak class. They're picking at 18. So, I mean, they're kind of backed into a corner. He's younger. I get the move overall, but I'd probably be a little lower on it than you. I'd probably give it like a C plus.
I like this move. Obviously an upgrade over Geno Smith. I like Sam Darnold a lot. The Seahawks are
I
in the
don't know if
midst
it
of
is an upgrade over Geno Smith. I don't know.
It depends what aspect you're looking at it, in my opinion. If you're looking at the floor, then definitely it's a downgrade. But if you're looking at the ceiling, it definitely is an upgrade.
That's fair. That's fair for sure.
Okay, that's probably how I would evaluate it too, I guess. I think they're trying to change the identity of the team. I think they're trying
Yeah.
to go to a play action, run first offense, and that's not what they were last year. They were a throw first team last year, which doesn't make much sense when, Tyler Lockett's getting up there in age. DK Metcalf, had a struggle bust of a year. Maybe he was hurt. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's obviously
Well, I
still there.
mean,
I think Yeah, go ahead.
Anthony Bradford, Lakin Tomlinson, and Olu Oluwatimi are their starting interior offensive linemen, man. You're just
I
not
like the
going to be able to
draft
run.
class though. I do
I
like
do
the
too.
draft
It's a
class that's
deep
coming up.
class, but man, they need to make a signing or two. You can't fill all three positions in the draft.
I really do trust them to do it. I think the Seahawks have a plan, especially getting Sam Darnold. They know Sam Darnold definitely struggled down the stretch when he wasn't protected properly. So I think that's the number one key right now. Fix up that interior offensive line in
Yeah,
the draft
that's
class. I think has a lot of guys that can do it
I definitely agree. Maybe it's a move I'll come back to after the draft and after free
for
agency
sure.
cycle through and like it a little more. But just for now, with how barren that interior is, I just can't give it a good grade.
Fair enough.
I'll give it a B minus. I think that's right where I'd put it right now. Again, you guys obviously say they have holes on that team. I even think now they have a hole at wide receiver. I mean, is Jake
Yeah.
Bobo a really good number two? I don't really think so. So
No.
we're gonna have to evaluate this one. I think after free agency is done, after the draft's done, right around like that late April, early May spot, I think is where you can really start to do it. For now, I'll give it a B minus though. I think that's a safe grade for it.
I mean,
I'll give
yeah,
it a B probably. I'll probably give it a B. I didn't give my grade yet, but I'll give it a B. Touching Justin Fields signing probably another B. I don't think it's really moving the needle in the league a lot, but I think it's solid moves that our team's trying to dig out, out of mediocrity, trying to find a splash and maybe a diamond in the rough at the quarterback position that really at the quarterback position is tough to address in this offseason
yeah.
with a weak draft class and a weak free agency class. So probably a B for both grades, both Fields and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I kind of
Trevor, do you
agree
have
with.
thoughts on Fields? Do you have thoughts on
I
Fields?
agree with the Fields grade overall there. You keep Garrett Wilson happy by bringing his college quarterback into town. I like what they're doing over there with the coaching staff. I mean, I think they could win, 8, 9, maybe even 10 games with Fields. So I like it. They didn't pay him too much money, didn't guarantee him too much money. Overall, feels like a solid bridge guy. If he's the guy, perfect. That's great, which he probably won't be. But if not, you can, look elsewhere in 2 years once his contract's up. So overall, I agree with Sebastian. I'll give this one a B.
I think the value they got was good. I just hate the player. I really do. I don't like Justin Fields at all. I don't think it's going to really work out. But the value, if Fields does work out, I mean, it's a steal. But this is really only a 1 year deal because if Fields plays well, he's going to want a new contract. So I would say it's a 1 year deal, like low risk, I guess. I'm just not a Fields guy at all. I think he has no feel for the position. I think his arm talent's very overrated. I think a lot of people are focused on a lot of the stuff he did in college and the throws he made at the collegiate level, not really with the NFL level. And a lot of people are forgetting that the film he put on last year was really run first, which is going to be good for the Jets. I think that's what they want to go to
Yeah.
after Aaron Rodgers. It's just
Especially with how good their running back core is.
100% with Brees Hall, you want to be a run first team. I think
Yeah.
Justin Fields helps that. All I'm saying is through the passing game, it's just going to be tough. I mean, if you watch the film with him on the Bears and even the Steelers, he looked like he looked a little frantic-y back there in the
Yeah.
pocket, and that's definitely a concern for me. But I think the value is good. I like the value on it, so I'll give it a C, right around there probably. I'm not a fan of the player at all. But if he's good, I think you're going to end up looking like geniuses though. So.
I definitely agree with you, AJ. I just feel like the problem with Justin Fields is the processing, and it feels like that's the hardest part to teach a quarterback. It feels like that's something that you either know the position or you don't. So,
Yeah,
in a sense, I
you
agree
can't
with
teach
you,
the
but it
old dog
feels
new tricks. Yep.
feels like a good bridge for the Jets, and it'll keep them competitive. So,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
I
intrigued to
wanted
see
to
how
talk.
Fields comes out. Yeah, last touch on Fields, but I'm intrigued to see how Fields comes out and plays because I think the quarterback we
Yeah,
saw last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers compared to the one we saw with the Bears is two different guys. I don't think he took that many risks with the Steelers. He kept the ball really out of harm's way. So I'm interested to see if he's gonna just let it loose with the Jets or if he's just gonna play the game manager role with the Jets. Probably want to see him, show us what you got. And Fields is 26 years old, so it comes to a point that you are what you are at 26 years old. It's no more development. You're a veteran now, so it's going to be very telling to see what the type of player Fields is in the first couple games of the year.
Yeah, Trevor,
yeah.
you got
I
anybody
mean,
else you want to touch on?
yeah, I wanted to touch in on the Colts signing. I really like what they've done today. As negotiations opened up, signing Charvarius Ward, 3 years, 60 mil, only guaranteeing just over half of that, and they get Cameron Bynum for 4 years, 60 million. This was my biggest criticism on the Colts heading into the offseason was just how barren that secondary is. And for them to address it immediately with big time money is what I really wanted to see Chris Ballard and this Colts front office do. So, I mean, overall, if I was a Colts fan, I'd be really happy. Now you can look to maybe a skill position round one, like Tyler Warren's been getting mocked there a lot. Maybe that just feels like the perfect marriage now. So, definitely feels like they have a lot more options to go with now, especially day two of the draft, now that they don't have such massive holes in the secondary.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Trevor. Obviously, looking at that Colts defense, the definite weakness in that defense was the secondary, and that's exactly what they addressed today, adding Bynum and Davis Ward. So now you may look and add in maybe a skill player offensively for Anthony Richardson, and that's probably the next emphasis in the Colts offseason. How
Yep.
can we support Anthony Richardson with a good core around him? And obviously, you have pick number 14 where you can pick a variety of guys. Maybe you like a Matthew Golden there, maybe you like a Tyler Warren there, maybe you like a Luther Burton there, or maybe if McMillan somehow falls, maybe you like him there. So like I think the Colts have a lot of flexibility now that I address that secondary for that defense, and I like the overall direction they're headed and the value of the contracts they got. I thought were pretty fair as well.
Yeah.
Given the market, I thought both of these players were going to go higher than they actually
Yeah.
did, considering there were other contracts throughout the day that were just unbelievably staggering. But I thought the Colts did pretty good here. I don't really like Anthony Richardson. I think they're going to end up adding another quarterback, whether that's Daniel Jones, whether they're definitely going to go after a veteran with Anthony
Yeah.
Richardson. There's just no way you can go in this year with just Anthony Richardson at in the QB room. That can't happen. They'll have to add a veteran, and absolutely, they have to get better at the skill positions. Outside of Jonathan Taylor, I mean, it's abysmal for them.
Josh
They've got
Downs looked decent.
Josh Downs, who I
Yeah.
like. Yeah, I like Josh Downs, but he's not a number one wide receiver. They
No,
need to
no,
find their
no.
next number one
Michael
wide receiver.
Pittman has been good when he's healthy, but he's
Those
not a
two are
number
solid. Get out
Yeah,
another one.
not a
I think
number
those are
one.
solid
Yeah,
twos right around there.
100%.
Yeah, and I think they need a tight end. We've obviously mocked Tyler
100%.
Warren. I wouldn't mind someone in free agency there. I like the moves for them. I think they'll definitely be better next year, if that makes sense. They just
Agreed.
need competent quarterback play, and I think it's very hard for them not to be, and they have to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm a big AR guy, so overall, I like this. Really committing to building the defense and hopefully letting him develop. Not putting as much pressure on him. I'll give these grades overall. I'll give him an A minus. I don't really see much they could have done better here, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll stick with the A- grade as well for the Colts here. Obviously, we saw the Houston Texans get it, in my opinion, worse today, losing Laramie Tunsil. So if you can upgrade at that position or every position really for the Colts and keep making your team a lot better, it definitely makes you a lot closer to the Houston Texans. It's going to be all coming down to Anthony Richardson, though. Can he develop into a starting caliber level quarterback? Can he be consistent? Can he be efficient? Is my major question for him because he can't come out and throw 5 for 20. He's got to come out and throw a nice 17 for 20, 15 of 20 for the Colts really to flow offensively a lot better. So can he be efficient? Can he take care of the football? And can he stay healthy? That's the biggest, question mark for the Colts. And if he can check those boxes, I think the Colts have a legit shot to dethrone the Texans for the AFC South crown.
Okay. I want to touch it on the receivers, the two big wide receivers and Devontae Adams, and I want to touch in as well on DK Metcalf. Those are really the big two moves that I saw, and I want to correlate that to my favorite team, the Patriots. After, so why don't I start with Adams? I thought this was a great fit, first of all, for the Rams. I think that's just a great way to move off Kupp. I mean, I don't know if Kupp's younger than Adams. I think he is, if I remember it correctly, because Adams was drafted, I believe, for like three at least or 4 years
One
before.
year older.
1 year older. Okay, that's interesting. One guy's drafted in 14, one guy's drafted in 17. Shows you how time flies here. But no, seriously, I'll start with Adams. I thought that was a great move for the Rams. I thought he was going to be an LA Charger. I thought that was a lock with Lad McConkey. That would have been absolutely special. But I think with Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua next to him on the outside, I think this is really outside of Green Bay. This is his best opportunity as a pro that he has. I mean, the Green Bay years, that was probably his best form. I still think he has a lot of juice left in the tank, and I think it's a good deal for the Rams. 2 year deal for him, and I thought they got him at relatively good money. I thought that was a great deal. You get your playmaker wide receiver. I'm telling you, the Rams next to the Eagles. I would love to see a rematch with Devontae Adams on the field instead of Cooper Kupp. If you put Adams on that field in January instead of Cooper Kupp, I would wonder what would happen because Cooper Kupp. I mean, let's face it, he was not the same guy at the end of the season. Devontae Adams looked like a machine with Rodgers in the second half. I would love to have seen it, but we are going to be able to see that this year with Kyron Williams. The defense is going to get better. I am all in on this Rams team heading into this year as McVay, Stafford, Nacua, Adams. It just seems unfair to give them Devontae Adams. I think it's a great fit. This is my only one, and I'm going to say it. This is an A plus, absolute A plus. They nailed it. I know he only wanted to go to LA, so it makes a lot of sense. But I think this gives NFC, defensive coordinators guys like Fangio nightmares. We could barely cover Nacua in the wild card or the divisional round last year. How are we going to cover Nacua and Devontae Adams, who are just machines?
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree, AJ. I feel like it was a good signing for them, especially with them shopping or potentially just cutting Cooper Cup. They obviously needed to add another guy on the outside there. Bringing Tutu Atwell back, he'll slot right in there in the slot. That'll be nice. I definitely like the offseason they're having so far, extending our I'm not going to be able to. Alaric Jackson, their offensive tackle. I thought they got him on a good value deal and bringing back Puna Ford. Like you said, I feel like this team just does all the little things right, and that's why they're able to stay so high up in the standings and in contention. And I agree, AJ. I really think this team could be really dangerous heading into next year. I don't care how old their players are. They have stars all over the field, man.
Yeah, at a time that wide receivers really are coming at a hefty price, having to pay close to 30 million to try to get a really, really good one. Devontae Adams only at 22 million. Pair him up with Puka Nakua, moving on from Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup, obviously, like AJ mentioned, was not the same player that he's been in the past, and Devontae Adams is clearly an upgrade. Yes, he is older, but Devontae Adams is playing at a higher level than Cooper Cup was, especially at the back end of last season. You really do wonder, if Devontae Adams was on the field, he's a more involved wide receiver. He's not going to go out and catch 1 to 2 passes a game like Cooper Kupp did down the stretch. He's going to go out and try to catch 4 to 5 passes, get really involved, take some of the weight off Puka Nakua, take some of the tension off Puka Nakua. So I'm really intrigued by this signing. I think if the Rams can maybe add a tight end, maybe stretch the field a little safety blanket for Matthew Stafford, but keeping Matthew Stafford healthy is going to be definitely the main priority. And if they can do that, the Rams are definitely going to be right back up there, as contenders to try to even go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Love the Devontae Adams signing. It just made too much sense. He wanted to be in LA. He got a very fair contract, in my opinion, that it favors both him and the Rams. It's just one of those perfect deals, in my opinion. So I definitely see why AJ gave it an A plus, and I'm probably going to stay in the same territory. I'm just going to give it an A. I think the Rams completely nailed it, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. While the Chargers over there, we look at them, they really haven't made any moves in the skill gaps. So you really do wonder exactly what they're going to do coming up.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I forgot to get my grade, so I'm generally agree with you, Sebastian. A. I don't know if I'm ready for A plus, just because I worry a bit about the injuries, but definitely a great move for the Rams.
Okay, I think that's a consensus there. I'll go in the number two now, which is DK Metcalf getting traded to Pittsburgh. They give up a second round pick in this year's draft and upcoming in April, and then they also give him a bag, which is a 5 year, $150 million extension. So here's my thought for DK Metcalf personally. What makes me think that leaving Seattle and leaving potentially now Sam Darnold and going to Pittsburgh to play with I don't know Aaron Rodgers, what Schefter's making it sound like, or Russell Wilson getting reunited with him. I don't really see the huge big time upgrade in that. Yeah, you're getting a bag. I'm never going to discourage an NFL player from getting some money. I mean, that's the number one priority is get your money and get out. I think that's the one thing. But however, with that being said, I am I am very displeased. I am disappointed that the Patriots didn't even make a freaking phone call to the Seattle Seahawks to ask about DK Metcalf. I would have given up the second round pick they have in this year's draft to do it. I would have paid him the contract. They desperately need a wide receiver. The only way on earth I am even accepting not placing a phone call is DK Metcalf told them personally they didn't want to play for the Patriots. That's ridiculous. So if I'm DK Metcalf too, I'm asking myself this question. Would I rather play with Russell Wilson or Drake May? I think the answer is Drake May at this point. I don't even think it's close for me. I am stunned that he's a Pittsburgh Steeler. And a lot of people are going to beat the crap out of the Steelers for giving him money. It's just one thing I'm getting sick of already in free agency, and it's been one day. Stop complaining about the money. Stop doing it. Stop. It's not your money. It's the owner's money. You're not the team accountant. Stop complaining about the money. If you want players in free agency, it's a tale as old as time. You probably have to overpay for the player in free agency because there's 31 other teams competing for the player that's available. Stop complaining about the money. The Pittsburgh Steelers did what they had to do. They haven't had a real, legit number one alpha wide receiver in some time. You know what they did? They gave up real draft compensation and they gave up real money to go out and get the player. And guess what? Guess what? They got the player. They have DK Metcalf, and for those reasons, I am going to give them a B plus for this. Yes, I think it's a little overpay, a tag, but again, with the way the thing's trending, with the way contracts are given out, DK, you have to pay that guy. He has to get paid, 100%. You get to give up a second round pick. Yes, you have to pay for talent. That's how it works in 2025. You're not just going to get guys off the street to come in and play for free for your teams. Sorry, it's not going to happen, especially in free agency. Get over the money. Get the player. The player's more important than the money. For God's sakes, if I have to hear another person come at me and say, "Oh, DK Metcalf's a terrible signing. They overpaid." Who cares? They have the player. They have DK Metcalf.
I may go a little against the grain here and against what you just said, AJ. I don't want to sound like one of those whiny guys on Twitter, but I did see a stat on Twitter that DK Metcalf's contested catch rate has gone down 10% the past 2 years, like 10% twice. And that's pretty much his game. Like, he's a decent route runner, he's a big body, but paying a contested catch guy that can't really catch contested catch balls $30 million annually is just absolute insanity to me. Giving up a premium day two pick is insanity to me. This felt like the Seahawks had all the leverage when realistically the Steelers did, because DK was the one that requested a trade. This is absolute malpractice from the Steelers front office. I'll give them a D plus. As for the Seahawks, they hit it out of the park. You don't want to pay that guy. He's a diva. He's a locker room issue sometimes, and he's been getting worse somehow at the age of 27. So I'll give the Seahawks an A minus for this move. I think getting a premium day two pick for DK Metcalf, given the situation going on surrounding him, is absolutely a home run.
Wow, that's a hot take right there. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree to disagree here with AJ and even partially against Traver. If the Patriots were to go ahead and make that move for DK Metcalf and pay the money that the Steelers paid DK Metcalf, then I would make it seem like a big deal because the Patriots desperately needed help at that position. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you already have George Pickens, who basically does the exact same thing that DK Metcalf does. You trade that compensation for DK Metcalf, who the compensation itself was probably already too high, and you go out and make him one of the highest paid wide receivers in the game. In my opinion, DK Metcalf's not a top 10 receiver in the game. He was not the best receiver for the Seattle Seahawks last year. Jackson Smith and Jigba was, and he didn't even eclipse 1,000 yards. And I believe that exact stat that Traver was looking at, around 33% contested catch rate for DK Metcalf last season. One of the bigger wide receivers failing to come up with those 50-50 balls is definitely concerning to me. I think there's a move that the Pittsburgh Steelers typically make because they want to stay competitive. They want to make themselves believe they're a couple steps away from being a true Super Bowl contender, and this only pushes them away and away more from the Lombardi and more into its mediocrity. Who's going to be their quarterback? Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is not going to win them a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, he might get into the playoffs. They may win a playoff game, but who cares if you win a playoff game, all right? You want to win rings. And this is another move that keeps the Pittsburgh Steelers in that mediocre bubble. It won't allow them to really excel, move up. Just accept the fact that you guys are not in the right spot if you're Pittsburgh, man. I just wouldn't have done the move for DK Metcalf. If you're going to get a wide receiver like that, go get a guy with a different skill set, all right? If they want to go and make this move for Tyreek Hill, I would be all for it because they could use Tyreek Hill. But George Pickens does very similar things that DK Metcalf does, so it just doesn't make sense. And it's an overpay. It is an overpay when you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you still have to pay guys like TJ Watt. You don't have a quarterback. They should have solved that before as well. But if the Patriots were to go ahead and make that move, they have a quarterback. They clearly have a void, a wide receiver they need to fill. So if you trade that compensation and get DK Metcalf in there when they clearly could use a guy like that and pay him that money, I wouldn't be so against it. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think it was more of a luxury than a need, and they overpaid for a luxury. And then in the NFL, overpaying for luxuries, especially when you have a lot of other needs in that team, especially when you're not really one move away from being a Super Bowl contender, is a problem to me. So I'm giving this move a C minus for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I just wouldn't do it if I'm DK Metcalf just because who's going to be the quarterback? Like, it could somehow be worse than Geno Smith, which is really concerning. I don't get the logic of going to Pittsburgh.
He went to go play from
unless they tell me right out of the gate it's going to be Russell Wilson. That's the
He went
only,
to get
that's
money.
the only way
He went to get money, man.
That and he's playing for the Seahawks of the AFC, basically. He went from playing from the Seahawks in the NFC to the Seahawks of the AFC in the Pittsburgh Steelers, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's actually a good comp. I can't lie. DK Metcalf, a Steeler, though. I'm very upset if you can't tell. I wanted him on the Patriots really bad. I think he would have been exactly who he needed at the position. But hey,
I think you guys dodged a bullet.
Really?
To be honest. Yep.
He's
what
good, but he's not that good.
Yeah.
He's good. He's not $30 million annually good. That just screw you over.
On a 5-year deal, too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's free agency, though. So if you're getting someone at this point, the odds are you're going to overpay. So it's just the contracts a little bit just kind of anger me a little bit.
The length is what worries me the most.
Okay.
Yeah, I just minded it was the Steelers. It's a team that minds me for me. That does it for me. If it's the Patriots, I don't mind it as much. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, out of all teams, being the ones that make this move, I just don't think they really had the luxury to make this move.
Yeah, they're not in a position to make this move. They have too many holes on that roster.
Exactly.
Yeah,
especially losing Dan Moore Jr. today.
No, I like that take a lot, Traver. That's a good take. The fact that the Steelers shouldn't have been the team to do this, that I actually agree with. They should just give it up at this point and start over because it's not
Yeah.
working.
Yep,
DK, I
absolutely.
agree with that. DK Metcalf's not going to solve the problems.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, and I want to talk about the Patriots too. That was like my third and final like big takeaway. This Foxborough day one spending spree again. Like I've had to go through this now twice, where we just signed C+ and B+ talent to A+ contracts. I am not talking about Milton Williams either, even though they gave him the highest contract in Patriots history. I'm talking about the other five really. I mean, they're nice players. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Carlton Davis is a nice player. I think Robert Spillane. I've learned about him today. I mean, I think he's a good run stopper. I like Harold Landry because he has the connection to Vrabel. But we gave him A+ money. This is my problem with free agency as a whole. I mean, yeah, I want you to spend money. Again, this is not my proclamation here to say owners should keep money in their pockets and not put it on the field. All I'm saying is we should not be giving B minus B+ money or B minus B+ players A+ money. That should not be happening. And somehow they did it again. They somehow did it again where they gave this A+ money to these B- players on the free agency board. They completely messed it up. They definitely should have been in on Metcalf if they were going to do this. I mean, that doesn't make sense. The only way they can justify it is Mike Vrabel wants to build the culture. That's it, and he had to go get these guys to build his unique culture there in New England. That's the only way I'm getting through it. I would judge it all as a package deal for the Patriots. I would say they overpaid for everything. They overpaid for Milton Williams. It was Carolina who had him, and they called back and said, "Oh, we'll give him $10 million more if he comes and joins us." And Carolina's like, "What the hell? We're not giving a role player for the Eagles that kind of money." So I would give the whole day for the Patriots.
They gave a role
I would
player
give it
for the Chiefs that much money like 30 minutes ago.
who
I honestly I can't even remember the name, but he just got 3 years 75 from the Panthers. Let me pull it up real quick.
Matt Collins is a Patriot, by the way, 2-year deal.
Oh, jeez. Oh, come on. Oh, God. Are you kidding me?
Here it
Just
is.
came in.
3 year. Oh,
Breaking news.
okay. It wasn't as much as I thought, but 3 years, 54 million for Tershawn Wharton. Man, call me a
I watch
casual.
football.
Call me a casual, man. I don't know who that is. I don't.
I agree
I
with you,
remember
Trevor.
him. He's an interior guy, isn't he? Interior guy for the
Yeah,
Chiefs.
yeah, yeah. He looks interior for sure.
He wants like
But
another
that's
just it's a jag for the Chiefs, all right. Just another guy that Spagnuolo pops in there, uses him every a couple snaps on defense. We need fresh bodies. Go jump in there, Warren. But once again, just overpaying for B minus guys. Ask the Jacksonville Jaguars how that paid off because that was ultimately their downfall out there with Doug Peterson. Getting these players, yeah, it
yeah.
makes you better for now, but now you go 2-3 years down the line when you actually have to pay those really good players, but you simply don't have the cap space to do it, and all of a sudden you just find yourself in a hole that, oh wow, we're mediocre because we have a ton of bad contracts on our team for players. Yeah, they're producing a little bit, but they're not producing up to the standard that we expect. So that's a big time problem I think going on in the NFL. Like Dane Moore Jr., that's the guy I really want to talk about. The Tennessee Titans giving him more money than the Ravens gave Ronnie Stanley. I mean, this guy gave up 12 sacks last year. That's 10 more than Ronnie Stanley gave up. It just doesn't make sense why we're giving players like these that
Oh,
much amount of money.
malpractice.
I much rather
Malpractice.
still have the hole. Like I'd much rather address that hole in the third, fourth round of the draft, take my luck with a rookie struggling than Dan Moore Jr., who I already know is a average to below average starter, and giving him elite tackle money. It just doesn't make sense why teams are doing that, especially the Tennessee Titans, who they have basically a new regime over there, a new GM. That's not a very good first move to make, by the way, from the Chiefs guy that came over.
Yeah, that's absolute insanity, I gotta say. Dan Moore was fine. He was serviceable last year. But to pay him, what are they paying him? 20 and a half annually? That's absolute insanity. We saw this be a disaster for them like not even a year ago when they signed Lloyd Cushenberry, 4 years, 50 million, and that hasn't really worked out. So I don't know when the Titans are gonna learn. You can't just pay starters superstar money. But back to that Tershawn Warren guy, looks like he's a big pass rush interior. Had 22 hurries, 33 pressures last year, and 7 sacks. So, other than
Solid.
that, not really great defending the run. Feels like maybe a bit of an overpay, but like we said, some of these small market bad teams have to overpay for players like that, like the Patriots with Milton Williams.
D+ for the Patriots today. By the way, I give them a D+. I give them no credit for paying these guys who really are a lot of people the casual football fan would say who when they first read the news. I'm giving them a D+. They had the most cap
Um,
space, It took them this long to spend it. It took them since COVID to spend it. They finally have spent money. I'm giving them a D plus for overpaying a guy like Milton Williams. Yeah, they had to overpay to get him, which I'm proud of. I think I'm glad that they're spending the money and not keeping it in pockets. But I'm giving them a D plus, especially Matt Collins. Really, really, you're trying to tell me you're getting better? You get Matt Collins? Really? Come on, stop. I'm not. I am not doing the Matt Collins thing. No, if they could cut him right now, I would. I would eat the money. Matt Collins sucks. That's a D plus. Sheepers, creeps. What are they doing? Elliot Wolf sucks. By the way, he should be getting coffee and making bagels every day at the front office. I don't want him anywhere near. This better be a Mike Vrabel pick, because if it's Elliot Wolf, I'm going to get really angry really fast. Matt Collins should not be on my football team, and if that stops him at all from getting a number one receiver, screw them. I'm done. No chance. No chance that stops you from getting a DK Metcalf. No chance that stops you from getting a Brandon Ayuk. I don't want to hear any excuses about how they have too many cooks in the room. Now they're done at wide receiver. I don't want to hear that from the Patriots at all. That would be embarrassing if they signed Matt Collins and that's it.
Unless they plan on taking McMillan, I agree with you, AJ. There's no way that this should be done at the wide receiver position. You just can't rely on taking guys day two and all of a sudden plug them in. And look at how that worked out with Jalen Polk last year. Took him top of the second round. All of a sudden, he's not even serviceable for the Patriots. So they need to address the wide receiver position either very early in the draft or in free agency. Go make a move.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. The Patriots have not been great today. I mean, I know you have to spend the money, but they're just overpaying these. I don't know how else to put it, but mid players. Like some of them are good, even great. Milton Williams is a really good player. Carlton Davis coming off an injury, you're going to pay him 3 or 60 million. Overall, all these deals combined, I'll give the Patriots a D plus grade, teetering on C minus.
Interesting. The team that's having the best offseason in my eyes right now, correct me if I'm wrong, they just got Grady Jarrett today. It's the Chicago Bears. I think
It is the
they're
Bears.
acing the offseason right now. I think they got Tooney for a steal. Considering what the prices these linemen are going for this week, like it's ridiculous. Why wouldn't teams give up a fourth round pick for Joe Tooney? Especially the Bears give up their fourth round pick. Like, I mean, it's like a mid tier fourth round pick. What are teams doing not giving up fourth round picks for guys like Joe Tooney? I don't get it. I don't get the logic. Tooney would be an unbelievable player for anyone, really. They're not going for him. I don't get the logic at all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like the Bears have had the best offseason so far, bringing in Jonah Jackson, Joe Tooney, and now they just signed Drew Dahlman. I was talking about how I don't see this Bears team competing for a playoff spot unless they somehow do a 180 and completely rebuild that interior offensive line. And that's literally exactly what they have done over the past 2 weeks. Absolute masterclass from Ryan Poles. I think it was a good move overall to keep him around there. I never thought he was really the problem when Eberflus was there. I felt like he was giving him all the pieces he needed. So overall, the Bears also bringing in Grady Jarrett on a 3-year, not super expensive deal. I definitely like what they've been doing so far, and I would call them winners of the offseason right now if I had to call one team.
Well, what for the second, third year in a row? Let's crown the Bears offseason champions already. I hate jumping on the Bears bandwagon because I did it last year, it didn't work out, but this year it's just super hard not to. You get Ben Johnson was the best head coach available. Dennis Allen, one of the better defensive coordinators available. You bring him on. I just don't see a way this Bears team stinks next year. I think Genty at 10 it might be close to a lock unless the Raiders take him at 6. The offensive line, 1 through 5, looks pretty set. If Ben Johnson can make Jared Goff look the way he's made him look, imagine what he can do with Caleb Williams. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Roma Dunze to work with. Cole Kmet's a very good tight end as well. And they got pieces defensively too. I really trust this Bears team. It's a tough division. I know that. But they have a fourth place schedule. I just don't see a way where this Bears team just stinks it up again. I think the Bears are looking at worst 8 wins next year with that fourth place schedule. If Ben Johnson can coach up Caleb Williams to be at least 3/4 of the player that we think Caleb Williams can be, the Bears should be competing for a playoff spot.
Agreed, 100%. I'll give them an A so far.
Yeah.
Good off seasons lead to pressurous regular seasons. Don't they better not blow it this upcoming season. That would be an atrocity if they suck again. That would just
They're cursed. They would be cursed.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no other way
after
around
that, yeah.
Worst off season thus far. I have 3 candidates that are obvious and falling off the chart for me already. But you guys go first. Tell me who's having the worst off season thus far here through day 1 of free agency.
I think maybe a bit of a sleeper is the 49ers. We talked about how badly they had to bring back their guys this offseason, and they haven't really been able to do that. After letting go of Debo, Aaron Banks leaves to the Packers, and conference rival a bit. And then not that much after Hufunga, I'm not going to try to pronounce his first name. I don't know how to yet. Leaves to the Broncos. So, and Charvarius Ward to the Colts. We already knew that was going to happen. He said he was moving, but still a big loss for them. So the 49ers just feels like they're getting worse, and it feels like that window is just closing faster and faster.
A move that we had not talked about, Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders today. So my team is going to kind of piggyback off the Houston Texans, in my opinion. It might be a little surprising, a little harsh, but I just don't know how you struggle up front and then you trade your best lineman, don't even get a first round pick back, and now all of a sudden you have to fill out 4 to 5 spots in that offensive line. I just don't. That's not realistic. You can't rebuild an offensive line just like that, especially through the draft. You can't put 5 rookies behind your franchise quarterback or right in front to protect your franchise quarterback. It makes no sense, especially the left tackles, especially guys like Laramie Tunsil. They don't grow on trees. Especially the trade compensation they got back was good, not great in my opinion. I thought it was going to be a huge haul they were going to get back for considering to move a guy like Laramie Tunsil, but they got a solid, compensation for a guy that I think is going to be incredibly good for the Washington Commanders. And CJ Stroud loses his blindside protector, one of the very few things that was going right in that offensive line. So I just don't know how the Texans are really going to rebuild this thing up front that fast. And I'm really concerned about CJ Stroud's health going forward and the Houston Texans offense ability to really be able to run everything they possibly can.
Two obvious answers for me. One, Atlanta Falcons. What the hell are we doing? What are they doing? Kirk Cousins should not be there. He should not be there right now. What are they waiting for? Are they just going to wait for lightning to strike on the building of the franchise and then he's gone? I don't get it. And you let Grady Jarrett go? Grady Jarrett's like a franchise defensive line icon. I didn't get that one at all. I would have kept him for sure, especially with a team that couldn't generate a pass rush to save their lives last year. And Matt Judon's now a free agent too. So they gave up a second round pick, or was it a third or a second? I'm blanking on it now. But they gave up an early round draft pick
I
last
think it
year.
was the third. I think it was the third.
You're right. I think it was a third now that I think about it. So you gave a third rounder, and now he's a free agent, so you're not going to sign him back. You guys look like buffoons right now, Atlanta. They're terrible. Making me
Uh,
look like a fool for believing in Penix.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I don't think Atlanta's been having a good offseason so far. Another one I want to talk about, you guys talked about this a bit on the Friday episode or Thursday episode, but the Bengals, man,
That
they
was
have
my
just
number
been
two.
horrific this offseason, man. Trey Hendrickson going to seek a trade. Looks like they just lost Akeem Davis Gaither to the Cardinals, too. Any competent players on that defense going out of the door is just terrible news for Bengals fans. Feels like this ownership doesn't really want to compete. Yeah, they want to keep Joe Burrow. Yeah, they want to keep Jamar Chase, but they don't want to give out the contracts that they have to these big name guys on their team. Like Trey Hendrickson was a DPOY finalist last year, and you're letting him seek a trade after how abysmal your defense was. I know you guys already touched in on this, but the Bengals have been having a disastrous offseason so far.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the Bengals just want to lose in flashy ways, right? Let's sign T. Higgins to a huge contract that, by the way, if they got done last offseason, it probably would have been $7 to $10 million cheaper. Trey Hendrickson, a contract, yeah, if they got done last offseason, would have been $7 to $10 million cheaper as well. They probably could have saved $20 million in cap space if they just signed these guys when they were supposed to sign these guys. So, yeah, now you're looking at the Bengals. Yeah, let's bring back T. Higgins. Let's bring back Jamar Chase. Let's have a beautiful offense. No defense whatsoever. Let's keep losing games 48-38 because why not? Let's put all the pressure on Joe Burrow every single time he touches the ball. He has to score touchdowns. Otherwise, we're going to lose the game because we can buy a stop on defense. It's just ridiculous. The Bengals are just one of, in my opinion, the biggest laughing stock in football right now have to be the Cincinnati Bengals because you have all this talent on your roster and you're unable to keep it, unable to negotiate with them because they're true superstars. It's just ridiculous, man. I would just circle the Cincinnati Bengals. You have a chance to really have a dominant window. Joe Burrow has been the guy who's been consistently able to step up to Patrick Mahomes and say, guess what? I'm here too. I'm going to beat you as well. And the Bengals are doing absolutely nothing about it to really back it up and try to push this window through. So, man, the Cincinnati Bengals, rough, rough, rough.
I don't know about biggest laughing stock in the NFL, but they're definitely up there for sure. I would say it's definitely a contender for the number one spot. Like if they signed guys when they were supposed to, they would have Jesse Bates right now too, and the back end of the defense
Yep.
would be an issue. There would
They
be
don't have
literally no
anything.
issue. Yeah, if they
They
were
have
actually
Burrow and
smart.
Burrow. That's
Yeah,
all
Burrow
they
and
have is Burrow right
Chase.
now.
like, if you just
Yep,
signed Chase
literally.
last year, I'd be a lot more confident. But they somehow didn't. They somehow let him come back and let him play. That was ridiculous last year. How that whole thing went. And they came out flat last year and lost to New England week 1. That was a really good joke they did on us last
Oh,
year.
Lord.
So there's other stuff that we can get into as well. I mean, like Myles Garrett's back in Cleveland. I mean, that's a pretty big one. Josh Allen got some extra money. So whatever you want to talk about, go ahead. I mean, if someone else really has a thought on it, jump in. But if you guys want to keep going with this NFL stuff, keep going.
Um, I'll touch it on a little Broncos news here. Javonte Williams just went to the Cowboys, 1 year, 3.5. This makes me really hopeful that the Broncos are going to actually try to bring in a running back in the draft, maybe early in the draft. So I'll just get a little Denver sports out of the way here. Again, Michael Gallup looking to make a return. Colorado State legend there. I hope he gets his way back, finds his way back. I've seen he has a meeting with the Commanders. That feels great, especially with all the careers Jaden Daniels seemed to revive last year. So that'd be a great fit for him. I hope to see him go and have a successful second state of his career.
Well, in the NFL, money speaks volumes, right? That's why Myles Garrett's back in Cleveland. When you offer him $40 million on the table, it's really hard to say no to that, right? So Myles Garrett stays in Cleveland. Not much to talk about. We know he's a beast over there in Cleveland. And looking today, I'm going to talk about my favorite deal, probably DJ Reed going to the Lions. I think for a very fair contract as well. It's a defense that desperately needed help in the secondary. They replaced Carlton Davis by bringing in DJ Reed. Very good contract, like I just mentioned. I think it just adds to that defense that's just going to get healthy. They're going through the healing process right now from what it was last year. If the new defensive coordinator can make his system work with the players he's got, I think the Detroit Lions might be up there as either the favorite, if not the second favorite after the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I still have a lot of hope for those Detroit Lions, especially with these additions they're making. DJ Reed is a huge one in that secondary to pair up with Terrion Arnold.
Yeah, I want to touch on real quick. Josh Allen going to the Buffalo Bills. Like, well, actually, he was still a Buffalo Bill, but getting some extra money. I think he was a little upset with how things went last year. He had an MVP season. I think it was definitely the right time for him to do this. I think that was the best move for him on the board. Absolutely, get your money, and no qualms with it. 6 years, 330, 250 million guaranteed. I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
My favorite personally, my favorite move, the Tampa Bay Bucks had a great day. Hassan Reddick for them makes a lot of sense. I mean, 1 year deal, I think it's worth it. 14 million with 12 guaranteed. I think he still has a lot of good football left in him. I think it was just the Jets curse last year, if you're at all concerned. I mean, he that offseason, the whole thing was mismanaged because of his contract, but he comes back this year with Tampa Bay. They have pass rushers up front. Vita Via's an absolute dog. They have Levante David still. I'm a fan of what he did there. And Chris Godwin, I mean, he left a lot of money on the table to go back there to Tampa Bay. That speaks volumes of just how bad the New England Patriots recruiting process is. But still, you get Chris Godwin back there. You get Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans. If Godwin and Evans could just stay healthy, this team, I think, is poised to win the South again. They have all the pieces. I know they're going to continue to be rebuilding that defense. Two more things that really just jumped out to me. Number one, I was going to say actually three. DJ Reed, steal for the Detroit Lions. They get a better version of Carlton Davis at a cheaper price. I thought that made a lot of sense for them. Number two, Josh Sweat heading to the Arizona Cardinals. He was great in the Super Bowl. I thought he was going to be one of the very first moves off the board at the 12 o'clock hour. 4 years, $76.4 million deal. The Cardinals needed defense help. This was a great move for them. I mean, it's an overpay probably, but who cares? They needed the player. They absolutely got him. I am a fan of what that move is for the Cardinals. They desperately needed a pass rusher, an edge rusher at that, and they get one with Josh Sweat. Finally, my third thing is some of these retrend quarterbacks that I love to watch out for. Kenny Pickett going to Cleveland. Wonder if he's going to get some starting action there this year. He has to over Deshaun Watson at the very least. And my second thing I'm watching, I know it's crazy, but Zach Wilson heading to the Miami Dolphins. I have been kicking the tires around Zach Wilson. If Tua gets hurt, I think Zach Wilson's a good option to put in there. Let's see what he's got with Mike McDaniel. I think this could be a revitalization for his career if he were to somehow get playing time. I would be very stoked to see what he'd look like with Waddle, with Tyreek Hill, with Devon Achane. I think that's a great spot for him. Whoever his agent is really smart. I think that's a good way to get him back and people really thinking about Zach Wilson in their stock. Because if you watched him in college, if you watched him for even 5-10 minutes, this guy has all the tools to be a stud. I mean, if you're watching his BYU Pro Day, some of those throws he was making were just insane. If you can imagine it, Zach Wilson, I think, could be pretty good in Miami. I'm not saying he's going to win an MVP. I'm not saying anything stupid like that. I'm not saying he's ever going to be an All-Pro or even a Pro Bowler. Well, maybe because everyone's a Pro
Hey,
Bowler
Tyler
nowadays.
Huntley was a Pro
Maybe.
Bowler. I mean, he could be, man. Could be
I
next
think
year.
Zach, I think Zach Wilson could go back to what we thought he was going to be. We've seen it now a million times where the Jets have screwed people. I think Zach Wilson, if he gets a starting opportunity, I think he could dominate. I would be excited to see it for sure. That would be awesome. I would love if he went back to the New York Jets and just ran all over the place, throwing bombs to Tyreek Hill, throwing bombs to Jalen Waddle, while Justin Fields is running straight into the defensive line and not being able to throw the ball deep down the field at all and has no vision for the pocket. That would be awesome and incredible. I know it'll probably never happen, but I am watching out for Zach Wilson this year. I am rooting for him big time.
I mean, yeah, I can get into a bit of an offseason that I like so far, maybe going a bit under the wire, if I can just pull it up real fast. Yeah, I definitely think the Packers are having a good offseason so far, bringing in Aaron Banks, shoring up that pass protection up front. Was it a bit of an overpay? Probably, but I think he was probably the best guard on the market after Trey Smith got franchise tagged and Joe Tooney got traded. So it feels like they really had no option, especially with how weak their interior was last year. I think bringing Nate Hobbs in, too, is a good addition, especially with Rasul Douglas being a free agent. I like the contract they got him in there with. They're only guaranteeing about, a third of it, 4 years, 48. That felt like a bit of a steal. So I think they're going under the radar. I think they could be right back up there in contention for the North next year.
Yeah, the bank signing was a little bit interesting. Obviously, the theme of the day is offensive lineman getting overpaid a ton. But, if he works out, he works out. It's a little bit interesting because he got Morgan, the kid from U of A, last draft. So where is he going to play? Or maybe
I
they
think
just
th- I
lost
think
complete
they're
hope.
hoping he can stick at tackle.
So, yeah, hopefully they can
That's
do
what
that
this
for
move
them. But
tells me. So
the Packers, I'm the ones that are calling the Cincinnati Bengals or even the New England Patriots. They should be
yeah,
calling Cincinnati Bengals about T. Higgins because I'm still not convinced that T. Higgins will be a Cincinnati Bengal come week one. I think that's the guy I'm still watching to see if he ever gets moved. Obviously, we saw one of these players signed the franchise tag. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. It's the Chiefs guy, Trey Smith. He signed the
yeah,
franchise tag, so maybe he plays under the franchise tag. We'll see what happens with them. Chiefs, I kind of like what the Chiefs are doing. They have their young core guys like Nick Bolton, guys like Trey Smith, like I just mentioned, and they're bringing them
yeah.
back. They're planning on paying them the main core that they think they still can provide them from years of dominance. They're bringing those guys back. Justin Reed, he's still a free agent, so I'm interested to see how the Chiefs replace him. Obviously, they replaced Tyrann Mathieu with Justin Reed. Can they replace Justin Reed with Javon Holland potentially? Keep upgrading at safety. That could be something I want to watch there sneakily for the Chiefs. But overall, I'm fine with the Chiefs what they're doing. They got a new blindside protector, the guy from the 49ers to replace Trent Williams down the stretch as well. So we'll see how that works out. I think the offensive line is the biggest question, in my opinion, heading towards next season. I'm excited to see what the Chiefs and how they address it come draft time. But, I think they've done a solid job, in-house and bringing the guys that they're supposed to bring back.
I mean, yeah, we need to go touch back on that Packers thing real fast, Sebastian. I just want to get my facts straight. They moved Elton Jenkins to center at the end of last year, which he looked pretty good. So Morgan Jordan's probably going to play right guard for them. That leaves really only one hole left on their offensive line, left tackle. So maybe they look to address that in the draft, but we'll see. I definitely agree with the Chiefs take, but what I wanted to talk about is the Commanders. I feel like it's just so obviously a home run, and we've heard it enough from our Commanders fan friend. So I want to give them props on this show, though. They're having an absolutely fantastic offseason, making a ton of great moves, bringing in Debo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil, bringing back Zach Ertz. They've been hitting it out of the ballpark so far, I think.
I mean, Javon
No, go ahead.
Holland, excuse me. Yeah, not Javon Holland. Javon Kinlaw is the guy I wanted to mention. Javon Kinlaw was a little bit of an overpay. We'll see how he
Yeah, but
definitely
he's a
plugs
good
in.
run stopper. I definitely
So we'll
agree.
see. We'll see how he plugs in into Dan Quinn's defense. They've done solid moves. I really love the Laramie Tunsil move, especially for the compensation they got him. They didn't have to give up their first round pick to land Laramie Tunsil. They can probably land another playmaker. They lost De'Ami Brown. We'll see if they want to add something else to, Jaden Daniels' repertoire. Maybe a running back. I think that's still something that needs to be addressed for the
Yeah.
Washington Commanders. If Hampton slides, I think the pick at 30 could still be Hampton potentially, but we'll see exactly what happens there. They found some solid moves and definitely we'll see. I think the Washington Commanders are a team I'm really intrigued to watch because I think there's so much hype going with them, and they could easily be the biggest letdown come next year. Because
It's
we've
true.
seen these teams make these magical runs and all of a sudden come up just short. But we all say, "Oh, they'll be back there." Well, they'll be back there. It's not really that easy to get back there. If you see teams like the Detroit Lions going one and done in the playoffs, it really is easier said than done to get back to that point. So I'm really intrigued. I think the Commanders are gonna still have to fight their way into the playoffs because the Philadelphia Eagles are still gonna dominate that division. I think this is the year that probably the Eagles break that NFC East curse that there's no repeat champion. I think the Eagles are trying to be a repeat champion in that division. But the NFC as a whole, we see the Bears, they're a team that's rising. I think the Packers will be there. The Vikings, we'll see how JJ McCarthy looks, but they should still be there as well. As well as in the NFC West, I think the 49ers will make their return to potentially trying to make the playoffs. The Rams will be in that picture as well. So there's competition to make the wild card. I think the Commanders are still going to have to fight their way in.
Von Miller got released by Buffalo. I think he's going to get scooped up by a contender. I
No,
know
he's
you're
coming
not.
home. He's coming home.
Okay, I can even see that happening. As crazy as it sounds, but I think he
Come
could go
home,
back there.
Vaughn. I'm sorry.
Khalil Mack re-signed with the
Back.
Chargers. That's interesting. They let Bosa go and they re-signed Mack to some big money, so it's a 1-year deal. That makes sense for me. Interesting though, and then the obvious one that jumped out to me when I saw it this morning, I almost spit my coffee out of my mouth before I went to go play some golf. J.C. Horn, 4-year, $100 million extension, $70 million guaranteed. I think he's a nice defensive back. Don't get me wrong. I'm not acting like he's a scrub. He probably does deserve the money with the way the market's going. But is he like a top 5 player at his position? I think it's very debatable. A lot of people would probably tell you no. I think it's an interesting, debate starter. I think guys like Surtain should be, thinking about, getting to the contract table because they think they're probably better than guys like J.C. Horn.
Man, he just
I
got
think it's
paid.
good
He
for.
just got paid.
He didn't get. Yeah, he didn't get. Hold on, Surtain got paid.
Yeah,
Not
last
today.
offseason.
I would go back to the table now and ask for more. I honestly would. If
I
J.C.
mean,
Horn
that contract keeps looking better. We got him 4 years, 96 last offseason.
Yeah, that's a really good deal. I would go back if
Yeah.
I'm Patrick Surtain and ask for 150 at this point. If J.C. Horn's getting 100, and Sauce
Yeah.
Gardner, that's another one who's laughing. Christian Gonzalez, another one who's laughing. There's a lot of good D-backs who are very happy
Oh yeah.
that J.C. Horn got his $100 million today and $70 million guaranteed.
100%. Another one I wanted to talk about was Trayvon Morey getting $60 million. I forgot a little bit where he goes. If you guys, or I believe it was the Panthers, and it was they paid him 3 years, 51 million with a max value of 60. That feels like a gross overpay. Trayvon Merrick's a good player, but is he really worth $50 million? I don't know if he's even worth close to 17 million annually. So
Yeah, I was surprised to see the safety market blow up like that. I thought, guys like Morik will sign for around maybe 12, 13, 14 million at most, but he's
yeah,
up close to 20 million. So that's definitely surprising in my opinion. But I'm going to talk about a couple guys that I'm surprised didn't test the open market, such as Ronnie Stanley and Zach Bond. I mean, I'm just so surprised. They must have
yeah,
really loved their organizations, and that's when loyalty really comes to play. Maybe they just really felt happy at home. But Ronnie Stanley, the way these guys got paid, I think Ronnie Stanley would have gotten paid like about 5 to 6 million more than what the Ravens originally offered him and what he signed for. Zach Bond, I think he would have gotten probably close to even maybe 10 million more dollars than per year than what he signed for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think that's when winning and obviously just the whole environment of a good organization comes to play. When you have a good relationship with your players, you can sit down with them and negotiate contracts that are both fair to your organization and to the player. So that's when good deals come to play, and that's why good teams stay good, such as the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens.
the
Chris
Broncos.
Godwin. Chris Godwin was a guy who I thought for sure would have tested the market. He left with at
Me
least
100%.
too.
10 million on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
Yeah, he probably left a cool 6-7 annually on the table by not testing the market.
He loves it
crazy.
there.
He
I
does, man.
guess
How could you
I would
not?
love
The
it in Tampa
weather,
too. Yeah.
yeah, the weather, man, and they have no state tax, right? It's them in Texas.
Florida, yep.
Yep. Maybe talking about no state tax, I can use that as a segue to talk about the Miko
Broncos.
Rantanen
Well,
deal.
before this breaking news, Broncos have gotten Dre Greenlaw, linebacker.
Let's go, man. Live reaction here. That's absolutely huge. Cody Barton leaving to the Panthers. I couldn't watch any of our interior linebackers cover because none of them actually could. This is absolutely huge. I feel like this is a big part that the Broncos defense was definitely missing. So I can't really give a grade because it just happened, but I'm definitely excited this happened.
He's already better than
Um,
Robert Spillane. I haven't even seen him play in a long time.
if he can bounce back from that injury from that Achilles, I mean, he was such a beast. I love watching him play. He was a joy. He's the definition of what you want to call a dog, Dre Greenlaw on that
Yeah,
defense. It is a
100%.
3-year deal worth $35 million. So, I mean, what that averages out to be a little bit under 12 million a year. That's a really good deal. You see AJ shaking his head. That's a great deal for the Broncos. I think they hit a home run there, especially if Drake Greenlaw can produce similar production to what he did pre that Achilles injury he suffered at the Super Bowl. I think that's such a steal, and that's a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had him right now instead of the Robert Spillanes and the Harold Landrys. I mean,
And now him and Hufunga are reunited. That's what they're saying.
D minus for the Patriots already. We haven't even gotten to the end of day one of free agency. It's been terrible, but I think we're good in free agency. I think we hit on just about everything there was to do. We hit it in 54 minutes, not bad. We still have a rebuild to do. Atlanta Falcons, we want to touch in there. They made some moves today already. Grady Jarrett out. They still have Kirk Cousins for some reason, but I'm sure the experts are definitely going to want to dive in on this Atlanta Falcons situation.
I mean, yeah, I'll get right to it. Letting Drew Dalman walk is absolute malpractice to me. Your offensive line is really what's been making your team going. And yeah, I understand you have pretty solid players all around him, but to just leave an absolute hole for your rookie quarterback, it's a little head scratching to me, especially since Drew Dalman didn't seem to be that expensive for the Bears to bring back. Maybe they're looking to spend their money elsewhere, but like you said, it's really confusing what they've done so far with their offseason. I think bringing back, I can't forget if it was Jake Matthews or Caleb McGarry that got extended, but either way, bringing either one of those guys back is huge and essential to that offensive line. But like you said, man, get Kirk Cousins off the team, get that contract off the books, get the dead cap in. You need to get your cap guys working on this. I don't even know if it's possible, to be honest. I mean, we've just heard it's going to be a foregone conclusion at this point, but I think you have to look center. Day two, maybe even you look at Tyler Booker round one and you could move him over. Um, but definitely something they're going to have to focus a lot on this offseason is defense. Outside of Caden Ellis and, maybe Matthew Judon, who's a free agent, and Justin Simmons, who's a free agent, they don't really have pieces outside of AJ Terrell on this defense. So I definitely like to see them go out and bolster that front seven because it's pretty poor and pretty lacking, I got to say.
I don't know who he's talking to, but I'll keep talking. I'll start. Their defense was atrocious last year, at least in the pass rush aspect. They need pass rush bad. Like
So bad.
they were like through at least the first 13 or 14 weeks of the season, their pass rush was some of the worst I have ever seen. And I've watched football consistently since about 2014, and that was
I mean,
bad.
genuinely.
Yeah, that was terrible last year for the Falcons. They need pass rush, and they're sabotaging Michael Penix right now. That's what they're doing. They're sabotaging him. I mean, yeah, I love the fact that he has guys like Drake London and Bijan Robinson, but they're absolutely sabotaging him with this Kirk Cousins thing. Get over it. You lost the deal. Get out of it now.
Just cut it. Get it over with.
The good teams realize the mistakes and they go out and just move on from it. It's not that hard. So you could
Like
say
the
you
Broncos.
lost. You have Michael Penix. You won. You won the whole thing. You have your quarterback. Get rid of Kirk Cousins. It's okay. You lost. Get rid of him. It's all good. Move on. Stop holding this guy. You're gonna pay how much for a guy to be a cheerleader this season? Really? He's gonna hold pom poms out there in the concession stand. No,
He's
get
gonna
rid of him.
mentor Michael Penix, who's
Stop.
already
He's not mentoring
25.
anybody. He can mentor him from the waiver wire. He should not be on the Atlanta Falcons. He shouldn't. They should get rid of this guy immediately. I don't know what they're waiting for. Take the dead cap. It doesn't matter. Take it. Go. It doesn't. Go ahead. You have Michael Penix. Take the dead cap. Hurry up and do it, or else you're just going to keep compounding the problem. And in the future, I can't take it with these teams and holding mistakes. It's terrible. One thing I would say for the Falcons is I would like a receiver in the draft somehow. Let's draft a receiver. Let's get Drake London next to a guy who can really play. I like Darnell Mooney much better as a 3 than a 2. As
I like
Kyle
Matthew
Pitts
Golden,
answer,
maybe.
yeah, for sure. Matthew Golden, Luther Burden. You can give me a lot of different options there. So I'll listen to that. Kyle Pitts is not the answer at tight end. If a team gives me a real offer for Pitts, I would trade him in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't wait to do it. I know there's teams that are pecking and poking at Kyle Pitts. I would trade him in a second. One of the biggest busts tight ends I have ever seen. I would trade him.
Yeah,
Right
definitely. I think he's a great blocker and he brings a great aspect to the game, but I agree. If you can get any value for what people thought he was going to be as a receiver, then you try to do that.
Yeah,
Well, a little bit
I would
of
trade him in a second. Trade him in a second. Build around Bijan Robinson. My goal for this year for the Atlanta Falcons is Bijan Robinson has this big time year for the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix, I need to see him slinging around the field. If you watch that game against the Commanders there with Penix and you watch this game against the Panthers, he looked like an absolute specimen. He looked like a future top 10 quarterback. Morris needs to stay out of the way, and the GM needs to figure it out. Get Kirk Cousins off the damn team. He doesn't belong there anymore. It's okay. You lost the deal. You won. You have your quarterback. Stop. Enough with Kirk Cousins. Enough. That's where it needs to start, and reinvest in that defensive line. For God's sakes, get pass rush. That was terrible. They couldn't touch a feather. It was awful last year with the Atlanta Falcons in that division. At least in the first 3/4 of the season, it was dreadful. They figured it out at the end of the year, but you just cut Grady Jarrett. I don't get it. I really don't. I'm at loss for words with this Falcons team. This is a clear sabotage on Michael Penix Jr.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll speak on the Falcons real quick. I mean, a little breaking news. Najee Harris looks like he's closing in on a deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. More likely than not,
just
that
saw
means
that.
J.K. Dobbins will find a new home somewhere else. So we'll see how the Chargers, use to pair Najee Harris. I don't think Hampton's out of the question in the first round. But, digging into the Falcons, I think what they're trying to do with Kirk Cousins is wait to see if a team's going to be desperate enough to offer him a deal to take most of Cousins' contract. If not, they'll probably just cut him post June 1st. I think that's probably what they're looking to do, especially looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Aaron Rodgers goes out the four, let's say to the Vikings, do the Steelers really want to trust Daniel Jones maybe to lead their franchise, or do they maybe say, oh, let's go get Kirk Cousins, who was potentially on path to winning an MVP 2 years ago? Maybe we can revive him, and maybe they are desperate enough to take on most of that contract. So I think the Falcons are just playing a waiting game with Kirk Cousins. They're going to end up cutting him at the worst post June 1st, I think, but they're just waiting to see if the team is desperate enough in a situation that they're desperate need a quarterback to get in there to take on most of Cousins' salary. That way they don't have to eat up most of that dead cap. But I don't think Cousins is going to be a Falcon whatsoever. And if he is, it's malpractice, like you guys just mentioned. But if I'm off the Falcons right now, the defense is what's concerning with me because, I mean,
Yeah,
we can sit here, but can we name 5 players on that Falcons defense? I just don't know. With Matt Judon leaving, exactly. Look at AJ tossing up the big one.
I could
AJ
maybe name
Terrell.
3 or 4. Yeah,
AJ
right
Exactly,
now.
Terrell.
AJ Terrell. Yeah, AJ Terrell's the main piece of guy. Ellis maybe had a solid,
Jesse
down the
Bates.
stretch guy. Jesse Bates,
Oh,
we'll see. What
Bates
happens.
too. I have two. Bates.
Yeah,
My
Yeah.
Jesse
bad.
Bates
That's
is
my
good.
fault.
But yeah, we'll see exactly what happens with the Falcons. I think they have so many holes on that defensive side of the ball, especially after losing Grady Jarrett. I mean, in the draft, like they may have to go first 2 days all defense because I just really do think they have to fill out that defense. You don't want to have Michael Penix Jr. being that young of a quarterback, his first full season starting, having to play catch up every single game because your defense can't buy a stop. It's just not a recipe for success. They can't generate pass rush either. They need a premier pass rusher. Go get one round one. There's going to be guys available. Maybe a guy like Mike Green's going to be available. James Pierce Jr. might be available. Guys like Shamar Stewart. Go get a guy like that you can develop into premier pass rusher because premier pass rushers can completely change the defense in a heartbeat. That's where the Falcons need to start. But defense, defense, defense. I think you can probably work with what Michael Penix Jr. has with Bijan Robinson, Tyler Ideal, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. The offensive line is still solid. You can work with that offensively, but they gotta focus on that defense because that is what's really concerning, especially that Panthers game we saw at the end of the year. That was a complete shootout that Bryce Young ended up winning because the defense couldn't buy a stop and Michael Penix Jr. never saw the ball in overtime. So that's my concern for the Falcons. I think they just completely failed to address the defense so far in free agency. And it's going to be tough to rely on the draft a bunch of new young guys to get in there. They better hope these guys come out like the Rams guys did, and Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, and produce right away. Otherwise, the Falcons may be looking at another disappointing year. And guess what that means? Raheem Morris, you may be out the door if that happens. If your defense, your specialty, which is the defense side of the ball, disappoints, you may be at the door real fast.
Yeah, I don't think I really said who I'd go with at 15. As if I were the Falcons, I would really heavily consider Walter Nolan to beef up that interior. He also brings some
True.
pass rush. I don't know if there's going to be an edge rusher good enough to take at 15, especially with how hot of a commodity it is. But it is a deep edge class, so we'll see. But I think that's definitely a shout. AJ, do we want to talk some hockey, or do we got any more NFL news left?
I don't think there's any. I mean, Cooper Cup got released. I mean, I think we were all
Yeah.
expecting that. But outside of
We
that, I
talked
don't think.
about that.
Yeah, we already talked about it too. I don't think there's any, unless I'm missing something that just happened like within the past few seconds. I think we hit on everything we could.
I think we're all
All right.
good.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect. Let's do it. NHL. I got a lot to say, so I'm going to be as nice as I can be for as long as I can. Mikko Rantanen heading to the Dallas Stars, 8-year deal in a trade with the Hurricanes. Uh, that was an organizational malpractice there from the Hurricanes. That was like an error, but they did come out of it nice. I mean, you get 2 first-round picks. Stankoven's no joke. I would much rather
Yeah.
have Rantanen. Don't twist it. I'd rather have the top 15 player in the league. Still, I don't know why he's getting traded like he's just getting passed around like he's like a hot potato. I would take him on my team
Yeah.
if the Dallas Stars wanted out. He is going to be a face of the franchise there with Jason Robertson, Miro Heiskanen, Jake Ottinger. I think they're the favorites to win the Stanley Cup if everyone stays healthy and there's no issues. The only thing is the Heiskanen thing that's at all concerning to me. Heiskanen has to stay healthy. And outside of that, if he does that, I think they're in a great space. I love Wyatt Johnston. I think he's going to be a future star as well. It is now or never for Carolina. There's no more. The waiting game's over. This is the year for Dallas to figure it out. And for Carolina, I don't know how it's not a draw. for players to go there and play, especially when you have guys like Aho and Sebastian on that team already. It's crazy to me. But I love the move for the Stars. I would give them an A+. I thought they nailed it. Get a top 15 player at that price. And for the Hurricanes, a lot of people are bashing them for not being able to hold a player. They did good, though, if you were going to give them up. You got 2 first-rounders and you got Stankoven. We'll give them a B-, if that makes sense. Because if you look at
I
what they
think
have,
this looks worse just because of what they gave the Avalanche not even
fair.
like 2 months ago for Rantanen. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's fair.
Nietzsche's just
Yeah.
passed him in points a couple nights ago. I'm pretty sure he just passed Rantanen in points, and that's a guy they loved. They're giving him up. From a Hurricanes perspective, yeah, you get value. 2 firsts is great to get. I get what you're saying. Definitely, like they were in a corner here. They had to try to get some type of value for him because he wasn't going to resign. So, getting 2 firsts and a nice young player is definitely, yeah, a B-. I definitely agree with you there. I think that's the big move. I'll talk a little Avalanche. I like the way Nelson played in his first game. He looks like a good number 2 center for us. And other than that, yeah, I mean, I'll leave it up to you. Maybe you want to talk about Marchand to the Panthers if that really makes them favorites to repeat, or
Yeah, hell yeah, brother. I want to talk about Marchand. I want to talk about the Bruins, man. They were selling out. They traded everybody.
it's
Charlie
true, except
Coyle,
for Pasternak.
yeah, and McAvoy and Swayman. They built
Yeah,
around the core,
Coyle
which is
actually looked great for us. He had a point, I
yeah,
believe,
perfect.
a couple
So
nights
this
ago.
is
Yeah.
exactly what I've been clamoring for the Bruins to do for 5 years. I mean, they have to realize at some point this old core is not going to win anything, and they did. They finally came to that realization, and they
Yeah.
stopped holding these players that have been on my team for feels like decades since I was born. I think George Washington was still president when Brad Marchand was a rookie. It's been that long. It was time to trade him. Yes, I mean, he was that was the only spot Florida apparently that he wanted to go to. I think they did a solid for him. I think it's
Yeah.
crazy. These Bruins fans who are like, oh, we only got a conditional second-round pick. Who cares? He was going to leave in the offseason. What, you just want to hold them and miss the playoffs this year? What are you talking about? Yes, you get rid of Brad
Exactly.
Marchand. Obviously. Who cares if he's your captain? He was your captain for, what, 2 minutes for a cup of coffee? Trade him. Yes, obviously, 100%. Not even close. You did great on the Brandon Carlo return. You get a first-round pick from Toronto, of all places? Really? Yes. Take that first round pick and use it next year and actually draft somebody. Yes. You trade Charlie Coyle for a second round pick. Yes, 100%. You trade midline guys like Trent Frederick for second round picks. Yes, obviously, these are all the moves we're going to make. Yes, the Bruins aced today. This team was going
They did.
nowhere. They were heading
They did.
straight into a big, gigantic, border wall. They were heading straight into a wall. They were going nowhere. They were on this train that's been awful all year. It's been average. That has its flaws. It was going
Below
to crash at some
average.
point. Below average. They've been terrible.
Yes.
They've been horrible. And the
Yeah.
fact that they still have Elias Lindholm's ridiculous. If you want to make a case for the GM to be fired, it is not about Marchand. It is about the inconsistencies of drafting, and it is about everything else. Elias Lindholm is now the Deshaun Watson of the NFL. Or the NHL, excuse me, rather, with that 7-year deal. It is terrible. That
Hard
contract's
to
an
argue that.
albatross. That's a horrible contract. Not even they should have. If the Bruins were smart, you save your A+ resources and your A+ money for A+ talent. Mikko Rantanen should have been a Boston Bruin. Yes, they shouldn't have signed Lindholm at the beginning of the year. They should have put all their horses in on Mikko Rantanen and paid him whatever he wanted to come here. That was a mistake by them, and they know better. And that's why Don Sweeney should be fired. Not because of Brad Marchand. You got a conditional second, which will become a first if he gets to the second round of the playoffs. It will become a first for a guy who's leaving your franchise at the end of the year, whether I like it, whether you like it, whether said Boston Bruins, jerk off on Twitter likes it, who's complaining and saying that everyone needs to be fired. It doesn't matter. You got a first-round pick for a guy who's leaving your team next year. It was a steal day for the Bruins. I give them an A+. The question is whether they can actually use the draft picks properly, which they have shown consistently throughout the last 13 years they have not been able to do. And I am tired of
McAvoy though.
McAvoy was the one pick. McAvoy and
Yeah.
Swayman have been the 2 picks that have actually worked out. Outside of that, it has been rough. They need to hit on the draft picks. That's the only way Sweeney can save his job. If I'm the Bruins, tank, lose the rest of the way, lose every single game, do not win, lose the rest of the way, tank, and it's the only time I've said this in years too. Tank, get the top 5 pick, go from there. Let's see if Sweeney actually knows what he's doing and can actually hit on a pick. That's the only way you know if Don Sweeney is a good GM or not, if he can still draft. It has nothing to do with Brad Marchand. I am sick of these people. You only got a second-round pick for 36-year-old Brad Marchand? Can become a first? Yeah, he got a first-round pick for a guy who's not playing till the playoffs because he's hurt. I can't. I've lost my mind. I've gone back and forth in the middle of my day talking to these Bruins fans on Twitter about how they won the trade for Brad Marchand. They obviously won the trade. It had to happen. He was walking out the door at the end of the year. It's like, I don't know, if the Denver Broncos have an old free agent, Von Miller, he's not going to re-sign with you. Trade him. Trade him. Yes, trade him at the deadline if you're not going anywhere. Obviously. Yes.
Like the Broncos did with Vaughn. Absolutely.
Seriously, I am not
Let him go
frustrated at
try to
you
win
guys.
somewhere else.
Yes, I am not frustrated at you guys, by the way. I am frustrated about the clowns that I've had to deal with here in Boston, who are still today trying to tell me that we lost the Brad Marchand trade. We were not winning a Stanley Cup. Out of the question. Out. They got a first-round pick. That's how you rebuild. But the people here are so stuck up in 2011 and so stuck up on the whole old thing with Patrice Bergeron and Tuukka Rask and Zdeno Chara, a team whose identity was a big bunch of gaggers. That's what they were. And now you're trying to tell me you want to keep Brad Marchand so you can miss the playoffs and miss the wild card by 2 games with him. Boo-hoo. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Marchand. We did you a favor. No complaining. I don't even want to hear him crying at the podium saying how much he loved Boston either. I love him, but it was time. He had to go. He had to have known that. And if he really wanted to stay, he could have signed a cheaper contract, and he could have stayed here for years. But nope, he's gone, and I am glad he's gone. It had to happen. I love Marchand. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. It had to happen. It had to happen. And these Bruins fans who are still, again, trying to tell me that the Bruins lost the trade, you people are the fools. You, not me. You. Sorry, I took 10 minutes to get that off my chest.
Hey, it has to happen, man. It has to
have to deal
happen.
with this. Ridiculous.
Sebastian, any thoughts on the NHL trade deadline?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, AJ, man. I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. It's all right. Opening days in, what, 2 weeks for the Red Sox. So I know you're pretty
Don't
pumped up
remind
about
me.
that.
Don't remind
Let's jump
me.
in. Let's jump into baseball right away, right? You mentioned the Garrett Cole
No.
injury after the year of Tommy John surgery. That's a big loss for the Yankees. I think their 3 best players in the playoffs last season were Soto, Stanton, and Garrett Cole. All of a sudden, all 3 of them not on the roster probably all year long. Stanton's probably also headed towards a surgery to potentially rule him out for the year. So the Yankees are in trouble. I think they really are. I don't know if they have a true shutdown ace in that rotation. The bullpen's definitely a strength. The lineup has definitely some weaknesses towards the bottom half of it as well. I think they're really going to miss Stanton's bat next to Judge, and they're going to miss Soto's bat next to Judge. So I think that's a lot of concerns with the Yankees. That's going to give teams like the Red Sox probably a chance to really climb up their standings real quick, especially looking at the Orioles. Grayson Rodriguez looks like he's going to start the year on the IL. Gunnar Henderson, some threat to starting the year on the IL as well. So there's a lot of concerns with the Baltimore Orioles as well, especially with their pitching rotation, Zach Eflin being their best pitcher as of right now. And outside of that, I just don't think the Blue Jays maybe have some decent pieces, but I just don't know if they fit that complete of a roster to really compete with the Red Sox, Yankees, or Orioles. And obviously the Rays, they can obviously pull a couple of players, up their butt, every year. It just seems like we have a random player we've never heard of. It just performs at a great level for the Rays. But the Rays, as of right now, on paper, they probably look like a long shot, especially they're not even playing their normal ballpark throughout the whole season.
Oh, I've got thoughts on the Yankees. This is the same thing as the Bruin people, the boohoo Yankee crew. I mean, you guys are ridiculous. Would you want Juan Soto back now if you could do it again? With Garrett Cole, who I told you was finished even before this injury, and now he's actually done. His career's shot and it's over. Would you do it again if you knew Stanton was bound to get injury prone like he's always has been throughout his career, and now he's done for the year too? Would you do it over again, Yankee fans? I ask you the same question as I do the Bruin fan, the Bruins jackoffs around here. The same people. You guys, I'm telling you, you're the same people. And you'll still tell me you don't want Juan Soto because, we have to get Max Fried because he's making the big difference out there in the rotation. The Yankees are going to stink. They have it all over them. This year's cursed. They're going to rely on absolute tools like Carlos Rodon and Marcus Stroman to bring them somewhere. They're not even top 5 in the American League right now without Garrett Cole. They don't even have pitching. Luis Gill's hurt already. I don't know what people are looking at with this Yankee team. I don't see it at all. I think they're going to be jack off terrible. The only hope for them is that Cody Bellinger somehow is inspired by the Yankee gods there in New York, and he comes out and has an unbelievable season, which I think is the biggest piece of bullshit. I don't think it's going to happen. And you expect Paul Goldschmidt to go back to 2014 form with a wheelchair, he's riding on out to first base and a cane in his right hand. Enough with the Yankees. They're the third best team in the American League East right now. The Red Sox are definitely better. They have this great thing called pitching, which actually works in 2025. And honestly, the Orioles are better too. Yeah, the Orioles are now better than the New York Yankees. Yep, the Yankees are done. They could easily be fourth in my power rankings right now. The only thing that's even saving them a little bit is Aaron Judge. I still think he's an all-world player, and with the way he hit, he looked like Mr. Mendoza out there in the win the World Series, dropping fly balls in center field, couldn't hit water if he flew out of a boat at the plate. They're in a bad spot. They are in a rough spot. Aaron Boone could get fired at the end of this year. This is how bad it could go. And Brian Cashman did not do a good job at this rotation. I don't know what he was thinking this offseason. Oh, yeah, let's keep Marcus Stroman, even though he's asked for a trade and doesn't want to be in the bullpen. That sounds like a great Yankee to me. Yeah, that sounds just like I'm sure that's the same thing guys like Roger Clemens and Mickey Mantle were saying. Yeah, we can't win. No, I got to play a certain position, you jerks. He's going to they're going to suck. And I'm so happy, too. It's going to be awesome watching the downfall of this team. I've never rooted so hard against a team in my life than this Yankee team this year. And that group of fans, the Juan Soto, oh, we don't want Juan Soto. Oh, the same people who are telling me he was the best hitter in baseball are now telling me, oh, did you look at his defense, though? He couldn't catch a fly ball in right field to save his life, even though he was a better defender than Aaron Judge in the postseason. You guys are full of it. You're so full of it, and you lost a great pitcher, too. Garrett Cole's prime was awesome, but he's toast. It's over for Garrett Cole. The days of Garrett Cole being this ace coming out of the pen, whoa, those days are done. They were over 2 years ago. I tried to tell you, Yankee babies this year, he was not that good in the regular season last year. He was garbage. He was actually garbage in the regular season last year, even though he had an 8-5 record in 13 games. He was all right. Like, he was that was it for Garrett Cole. And now you're trying to tell me that the Yankees are still going to the World Series. You people are full of crap, too. I am calling out bull crap as I see it. With the Patriots offseason, with the Bruin fans, and now the Yankee fans, bull crap. Bull crap gets called out on 3 for 60 from this point forward. I've had enough of these boo-hoo crybaby fan bases. Enough is enough.
Wow. Generational, AJ. Generational.
No, I've had enough. I have had enough. I still get. I'll look for my phone right now. Brad Marchand is a proud Bruin. The fact that they did him so wrong is the biggest disgrace I've ever seen. That's one of the texts I just got. How do I even respond to that right now? That's my question. But I'm gonna have to figure it out. Luckily, I'm home, so I can stew on it for a few minutes. Monday Night Raw is coming on in 4 minutes. That'll get me through the rest of the night.
Nuggets start in 4 minutes. Tune in. Jokic is getting his revenge tonight.
Yeah.
We'll have a discussion about that one.
Yeah,
we can debate that one.
NBA on Friday.
Yeah, we'll debate that one on Friday. So as well as March Madness coming up, we'll do our bracket sometime next week as well. I'm pretty sure Selection Sunday's this Sunday?
Yeah.
We'll do that. That's coming up Friday. We'll be back here on Spotify. We'll somehow do a baseball show before the start of the season. I can't wait to give my AL East rankings and put the Yankees at dead last. That'll be terrific. But that's all the time I got for now. I'm going to go take a breather, relax for a few minutes, Maybe play a little video games tonight. I haven't done that in like 10 years. But you know what? Yeah. New things for me. You know what? I'm going to go play as the Florida Panthers against the Bruins and have the Panthers put up 20 because I can't take the Bruins fans anymore. They're driving me away from my team. But enough. Enough is enough with this rant. Traver, Sebastian, thanks for the time, guys. Let's do our usual wrap-up.
From Traver Cox,
Sebastian Friar,
AJ Goncalves saying so long. We'll see you Friday right here on 3 for 60.